Andrew, just first, how is Freddie and Miggy doing right now? And are you guys still optimistic they'll be ready for Saturday?
Jack, this is Brandon. Nice to meet you, man.
Oh, what did I say?
You said
Andrew?
Andy.
Oh, my bad.
uh, Freddie and Miggy progressing well. Each day getting a little bit better. Starting to go through some baseball activities. So we'll keep tracking it, but pretty optimistic at this point.
And then what have you guys done just with, when you look back at this bye week the last couple years, how different has it looked this week? Are there things you guys learned from that and implemented and what has kind of the process been like these first couple days?
Yeah, I mean, we took Monday pretty much off, with the exception of Flaherty, to kind of give us a reset. I do think it's slightly different with having played incredibly intense games prior to this weekend. Facing San Diego, so it was grinding it out to the very end, and then this is more of a gradual build up than we've done. We've normally played games like 3 days in a row, and then Friday's lighter. So we're ramping up intensity more and more as we get closer to the game. And a lot of stuff has been player driven, of really focusing on team unity and bonding and wanting to make sure they're together doing things. So from that standpoint, it's a different look from what our schedule looks like, and then also with the guys really focused on doing things together over this time.
And then when you look at the pitching going into this, obviously you guys didn't get a ton of length consistently from the rotation this year. How much do you feel like that's something you're going to need in the postseason, or do you kind of look at the bullpen depth and the depth of the staff you have as a whole as being able to work around that to some extent, even if you guys don't get a ton of length out of the rotation?
Yeah, I think we obviously, length is always better, but I think we're focused much more on like quality over just a ton of quantity. And we have a really talented group who are experienced in the playoffs. And then our bullpen, I think is a really, really strong component of this team. So we'll have really good options across every game. If our starters are feeling good and throwing well, and the game affords us to push them, then I'm sure that's what Doc will do. And I think we have each game will kind of dictate on what happens with each guy.
And have you guys set the rotation yet?
Right now, we're planning on Jack in one and Yamamoto in two, and then not really, obviously Bueller and Knack will play big parts of things, but haven't really focused much time outside of games one and two.
All right. Brandon, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Jack.
Next question is from Juan Toribio. Go ahead.
Hey, Brandon. Just wanted to
Come on. Yeah, thank you, man.
How do you guys? I'm not really sure what the roster rules are, but how would you guys kind of go about your roster construction for for a shorter series as opposed to like a 7-game series in terms of position players and pitchers on the roster?
Yeah, we'll talk through that. Over the coming days, kind of see who comes out of the wild card round and keep talking. But I think we have good options, whether it's going with the extra pitcher or one fewer pitcher, an extra position player. We just kind of need to discuss that more as a group, and plan on doing that, the next couple of days.
How closely are you guys checking on Kershaw? Obviously, he's kind of keeping his arm loose, but the toe has been an issue. And a guy like Gonsolin, who seems to be healthy in Arizona, like could they kind of play a part in things?
Yeah, I mean, I think so much of it is seeing how those guys continue to progress, and then do we see an acute need on our staff. I think, like I mentioned earlier, right now it's a really really talented group of pitchers, and then we'll see how things play out, health performance wise, and where those guys progress as far as health and performance when they're out there throwing. So a lot of good options, and I think it's going to be a fluid situation.
Cool. Thank you.
Next question is from Bill Plunkett. Go ahead, Bill.
Hello, Brandon. What was the outcome of the big summit with Ohtani as far as will he be facing hitters and throwing live BPs during October, or did you decide to put that off?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's no different than before. We don't anticipate him pitching in the postseason.
But will he be facing hitters in live BP?
It depends on where his progression comes out. We're going to stick with his progression, and that, probably it's just bullpens for quite a while from as of right now.
And in his day job as your DH,
Yeah, he's pretty good at that.
Yeah, I think you should keep him there. The last year, a big deal was made of Mookie and Freddie going one for whatever it was in the 3 games. How does having Ohtani in the mix up top change the equation offensively?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything about the postseason is guys performing to their true talent level, and as many guys as you can have that are on the roster that are really talented, and then it gives you a better chance. Then you have other guys that have stepped up in huge moments in October, whether expectedly or unexpectedly. So I do think it's a lot about having, players play as well as they can in the postseason, and then, you go from there. You can put out a really talented roster, and that's the goal. And then those guys are going to lock it in and go do what they do.
How do you think teams will approach Ohtani?
I don't know. I mean, it's tough because, you have what we feel is an incredibly deep lineup. So if you don't attack Shohei, he's stolen a few bases this year. So you're asking for, a double a lot of times. So I'm not really sure. I think each team could see things differently, and it'll be unique to whomever we play, but it's going to be hard to navigate. You can't pitch around everyone, and it's all about how guys are performing in that moment.
Thanks. Stay hydrated.
Always.
Next question is from Dave Isay. Go ahead, Dave.
Hey, Brandon, when you talk about Freddie making progress, will we know until he gets out there how much lateral movement he'll have, and just at what capabilities he'll be able to play at?
Yeah, I mean, he's swinging and hitting well. We have, we still have a few days before we play. So, with the treatment and continuing to push that along, like time, we're going to take that full amount of time. And there's not many guys that I would bet on more than Freddie on posting and playing well. So we'll take the next few days to continue to see how that goes.
Max Muncy said that if there was any sort of doubt, you guys would have him take ground balls at first base. Has he started to do that?
He has not done that yet, no.
Thank you.
Next question is from Fabian Ardaya. Go ahead.
Hey, Brandon, will Freddie be taking part in the live at-bats, or is that something where he's just going to be on that sort of side program rehabbing?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have opportunities, whether it's in our inter-squad games or just pitchers throwing live. So we'll have plenty of opportunities for our guys to face live pitching, no matter what the setting.
And will Freddie be part of that, though?
Yeah, I mean, the plan is for him to see live pitching at some point this week, and a lot of it will just depend on how he continues to feel. But that's certainly, yes, the plan is for him to see live arms at some point.
It seemed like over the last few years, like the bye has impacted hitters more than pitchers. What gives you guys the confidence that maybe you guys are in a better spot to maybe handle that sort of layoff?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is how we're structuring our practice and being able to utilize the different technologies we have, plus velo machines, and making sure that we are fully geared up for what we always see is an uptick in fastball velocity and fastball quality in the postseason.
Is Kershaw any closer to throwing out facing hitters? I mean,
no, not currently, but we'll continue to see how he's progressing along, and I think we all know Kersh. If it gets to a point where he feels like he can go, we'll go. But no, currently he's not any closer.
All right, thank you, Brandon.
Next question's from Carrie Osborne. Go ahead.
Hi, Brandon. Now looking back at the Jack Flaherty acquisition, how important was it considering what's all happened to the starting rotation?
Yeah, I mean, it was massive, obviously, and I think that's part of the deadline where we certainly would be in a far different position had we not done that. And it's a win-win for both teams where we certainly had an acute need, and he's going to be a huge part of our October run. And then you see guys like Trey Sweeney starting in the lineup for the Tigers. So it was one of those win-win situations for sure.
And then how would you compare the depth and the health of the rotation compared to, this time last year? Obviously last year it was not many pieces left. So how would you compare it?
Yeah, we feel really good about this group and think it's really talented. Guys that have pitched in huge games before, obviously, and then a bullpen that has thrown really well for us all year, and that has a ton of postseason experience as well.
With one last thing, Yoshinobu Yamamoto has obviously been in some big games in Japan and otherwise in his career. What do you think kind of the bright lights of the postseason will do for him?
Well, I mean, I think if New York was any indication, then it'll be has a chance to be pretty special. So I don't think Yama's going to be fazed by the big moment, and if anything, I think he's going to thrive on it.
Thank you, Brandon.
Next question's from Eric Steven. Go ahead.
Hi, Brandon. I was wondering, we're talking about, Freddie's ankle, but how is his finger doing? Has that healed yet? We're like maybe 6 weeks from that happening?
Yeah, I don't think it's completely healed, just because obviously he was playing through it, but don't feel that it is a limiting factor at this point. Freddie's as tough as they get. So I think even if something hurts, it's not going to meaningfully affect them.
And then Tommy Edman, another deadline acquisition. What exactly has he brought to you guys? Like just as a all-around player, and what has he done for you?
Yeah, I mean it's a guy that does everything the way you would want it, right? It's scrappy, it's gritty, it's plus defense in center and short. It's when you're on the other side, it's incredibly annoying at bats. He's slugged for us. He's gotten big hits. He can steal bags, so he's certainly a complete player that I think is a really nice complement to our lineup and adds a different dimension of really lengthening it out.
Thanks.
We got one more question from Jack Harris. Go ahead, Jack.
Hey, Brandon, one thing your guys have talked about, or your hitters have talked about over the years, is in the regular season, how good you guys are at game planning and scouting opponents and kind of having like a plan of attack. How much tougher is that to do in the playoffs when teams might be more willing to change their tendencies and the way they attack you guys? And when you look back at the last couple of years, like, are there things that you guys have learned about how you can better combat that? Whether it's in-game adjustments or whatever else, like in a postseason environment, to be more consistent at the plate?
Yeah, I do think one of the things we saw throughout the league this year, I think game planning in general has really taken a step forward with more teams spending a lot of time on it and trying to expose hitter weaknesses. I think across the league and industry, it's certainly we've seen an uptick, and I think as far as what we're doing, I think that's what Robert and Bates and JT Watkins are going to be diving in on and messaging and learning from what we've seen in the past and how we expect teams to attack us and make sure that we are we're the ones attacking the pitcher and not the other way around.
Thank you.